No words can describe Odin and Hela's rule over the Nine Realms. Only a live-action spin-off, a prequel project that will depict just that, just what kind of a rule the two had and how it turned out, something we all want to see as an extension of their lives and to what extent the two of them went in order for peace, a characteristic that eventually leads Odin to be an overlooked villain, a bad father, and Hela, a horrible person for what has been done to her. The one above all when it comes to the Nine Realms of the MCU is, or more importantly, was Odin the All-Father, a title he honored himself after conquering all of the 9 groups of vastly distant celestial bodies, that area as we came to learn, connected by the cosmic nexus known as Yggdrasil, or better known, the World Tree. Home to different races and cultures, the 9 realms Midgard, Asgard, Jotunheim, Svartalheim, Vanaheim, Muspelheim, Niflheim, Alfheim, and Nidavellir are all of the separate planets that orbit around Midgard, or as we like to call it, Earth, but in the MCU of course. Despite being separate planets, they're closely connected to each other, with the inhabitants of the realms having a closer resemblance to each other than any other advanced species residing beyond the realms.
Unworthy of these realms, unworthy of your title! You're unworthy!
So you can see that despite all of us knowing how the Yggdrasil connects all of them, we're yet to learn more about these separate planets, with us only knowing just a few, including the likes of Midgard, which is Earth, Asgard, where Thor and the other like him come from, Jotunheim, the home of the Frost Giants, Loki's birthplace, and Nidavellir, the home of the dwarves, where Thor forged Stormbreaker, but only after the entire race was wiped out by the hands of Thanos after he got his hands on the Infinity Gauntlet. So the question that has been flying around for a while is whether we want to know more about the 9 realms, or particularly about Odin and Hela, who are fighting side by side to conquer them all, reminded of their strength, earning their respect and gratitude along the way, proclaiming themselves as the rulers of the 9 realms. Throughout the 3 Thor movies so far, we caught a glimpse of this history, however, we never got to experience the true nature of it, and we may never do so, as Odin is now dead, and Hela is destroyed on Asgard following the events of Ragnarok, the end of the world in Norse mythology. After Thor rebirthed Surtur, with putting his crown in the living flame, yeah, a lot of this doesn't make sense, or simply strange things to us, but that's how the Asgardian culture is, which is yet another reason we probably need more of Odin and Hela, and what they were doing before the MCU, as we know it today, even came to place. There's a lot of ground to cover, a deeper exploration of both the father and his eldest daughter before the MCU presented them to us in the state they were in, Hela banished to Hell for some reason, and Odin on the cusp of his life as an old man and not the warrior depicted in MCU history. Why all of a sudden changes of pace, you ask? Well, while watching the Loki Disney Plus series, one line from Loki confused us all, an insult that was surely put there for a reason, which probably hints at a future spin-off movie or series. That will give us all the answers we need of the conquering of the 9 realms, and we're here to dive deeper into things and see how things stand right now, and what it could mean for the future of the MCU, but going way back through the years. The God of Mischief is always on the talkative side, and in the second episode of the Loki series, he took a shot at the Asgardians and Odin's lengthy rule over the 9 realms, a statement that makes it a little bit confusing. Brought in by the TVA to stop his evil variant, Sophia DiMartino's rogue Loki, who is messing with the sacred timeline, the God of Mischief, as always, also has other plans for himself, to secretly take over the TVA, and while trying to do all of this, he also doesn't miss the chance to deliver an Asgardian low blow. The bloody campaign from Odin and Hela, the one we mentioned before, puts Asgard's rule over the 9 realms, and despite all the rebellions over the years, the All-Father decided that a path of peace is the best way to keep order. He even banishes Hela for having too much ambition when it comes to the conquering side of things. On the other hand, while on a mission for the TVA, Loki seems to undermine the Asgardian intelligence and puts Odin's rule in question. He goes on to say, "Where there are wolves, wolves' teeth are near," and then goes on to say that his people, referring to the Asgardians, that are gullible fools, a trait that he exploited time and time again. Now, we know that evil Loki was not planning an ambush on the TVA, but rather wasting time in getting more assurances from the TVA. However, this comment of his begs the question, what if what Loki said about Asgardians being gullible is true? How did they rule over the 9 realms for so long? A plot hole we think that many of you guys would want to see more about, right? Though it's a pretty good statement, Thor falling for the same trickery over and over again is a prime example of it, and while Loki made some good points, there are some flaws in his reasoning. This contradicts the fact that if the TVA and the Asgardians are one and the same, it goes on to show that the residents of Asgard didn't fall for all of his mischiefs, much like the TVA, who were able to see through him most of the time. Odin and Hela's rule over the Nine Realms was a success, there's no doubt about it. However, we still think that despite everything being done for peace between the Nine Realms, we think that many of you will agree that Odin is probably one of the most overlooked villains in the MCU. He doesn't appear much on screen during the runtime of the MCU, but the amount of damage he caused at that time is immense. He left the Tesseract on Earth to be stowed unprotected by mere humans, which left the containment vessel for the Space Stone vulnerable, and much later attained by the Red Skull and Hydra. In other words, Odin used those people as sacrificial pawns for no discernible reason. Outside of being a ruthless tyrant, Odin is also a terrible father, not only to Hela for banishing her. Instead of coming to reason, he lies to Loki over and over again, and that he was only on Asgard for peace between Asgard and Jotunheim, with all of his bad decisions leading directly to his bad parenting. He's also the one that potentially made Loki from a trickster into a villain, as he was never Thor's equal, which is due to him being an adopted son, or that's how he was treated by his not-so-biological father. Odin's dismal behavior also leads to him going back on his words that peace should be won at all costs. He responds to grief with revenge after his wife Frigga is killed by Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves. Odin's canonical appearances depict him as a whole different beast, with little as to no regard for who he was before we came to know him, which according to us is probably the one and only reason among the many out there that make him a potential character for a spin-off project, one that would also include his daughter Hela as his commander and executioner. But don't even let us start on her behalf, as she's a whole different breed in a metaphorical sense, something we caught a glimpse of in the events of Thor Ragnarok. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on the whole rule over the Nine Realms? Did Odin and Hela have the right to do so? They achieved peace, yes, but at what cost? So many men, women, and children slaughtered. Do you think you would be interested to see more of the Asgardian history, but probably from a different point of view? What are the details you'd like to see get shown in a spin-off of sorts? And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Until then, take care and be happy.